What's good, everybody? This is DeNovoReviews. Some of you may know me from JPaint06, a previous channel that I had that was mostly sneaker reviews. I just wanted to focus this channel mainly on movie reviews and movie-related stuff. I'm going to have a ton of collaborations, other YouTube users, other people I'm close with, and I figured for my first video, I'll start you off with a way to kind of judge my preference in films. So I'm going to go through my top 5 films of 2015 so far and my top 5 most anticipated. Without further ado, let's get right into it. For my top 5 favorite movies I've seen so far this year, I've got a few honorable mentions. First, we have Black Mass. Great acting by Johnny Depp, but just an okay movie. Then we have Inside Out. All the hype, I thought it was going to be much better than it was. It was a good movie. Doesn't come close to Up. And I am not expecting it to be anywhere near one of my most anticipated, which we'll get to in a little bit. Mad Max, amazing for an action movie. Amazing. Great writing. Great, but it was just outside my top 5. And then right there, outside my top 5 was Love and Mercy. No movie probably hit me with more of an emotional ending and just hit me harder than that movie did towards the end. But it just fell right outside my top 5. And I wouldn't even call it an honorable mention, but just so you guys know, I did see the movie, The Martian. I just didn't think it was anywhere close to the hype. I thought if you want a good sci-fi movie, I thought Interstellar was way better, and my all-time favorite sci-fi movie is Moon, and I didn't think it came close to comparing. But let's go ahead and get into my top 5. Oh, and outside the top 5, again, this very, very close. Dope. Great movie, super fresh, haven't seen anything like it, but it didn't quite make the top 5. Now for my top 5. Number 5 is a movie called Tangerine. It's a crazy movie about basically a couple of transgender women who go through so many trials and tribulations. One's trying to become a singer. The other just got out of prison and she's trying to figure out what's going on with her boyfriend. And let me tell you something. This movie was shot on an iPhone. And in my personal opinion, it should receive a nomination for cinematography. I thought the cinematography was better than my number 1 favorite movie on this list. And that movie will for sure get a nomination for cinematography. I think this movie should get a nomination for cinematography, and it was shot on an iPhone. That should tell you something. That should tell you... This movie, to me, changed how movie making can be done. There should be no excuse for any filmmaker after this movie. I thought the story was great. It was a very entertaining movie. So that was my number 5. Number 4. One of the most unbelievable documentaries I've ever seen. Kind of close to Act of Killing. Act of Killing, surreal documentary. Surreal. But this movie was surreal. It didn't have as... It wasn't quite as depressing or quite as sickening as Act of Killing, but it was very, very close. The movie is Wolfpack. To me, this should be the front runner for Oscar. I doubt it'll get it, but I've seen several other possible Oscar contenders for documentary, Amy, etc. And this, to me, is the best documentary I've seen in a long time. There were so many questions I had when it was over. You could make a whole series out of this. But it was basically the story of several brothers. There may have been a sister, I can't remember. But if there was, she was much younger. Several brothers who were locked in their apartment building by their family. And it's this, and all they could do was write and make movies. So, and they didn't write their own movies, although they did towards the end of the documentary. But the premise and the basis of everything they were doing was they would type out scripts based on movies they would watch. So they would type word for word the scripts. One example is Reservoir Dogs. typed out the entire script, acted it out themselves after typing it out, and then filmed it. And then it's kind of the story about how they are introduced to society. And man, this movie was unbelievable. I've never seen a documentary like it. Highly recommend it. Go see it. My number 3, a movie that surprised me, was not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as it was, Straight Outta Compton. Last rap biopic that I saw was Notorious, and that thing was like a Lifetime movie compared to Straight Outta Compton. Straight Outta Compton, good story, great acting, great directing. It had it all. Ice Cube's son, phenomenal. The guy that played Eazy-E, unbelievable. This movie, to me, deserves recognition. It deserves some Oscar nominations. I thought it was great. Even if some of the stuff may have been embellished, highly recommend it. That's my number 3. Number 2, and I had a hard time deciding between my number 1 and number 2, but my number 2 is The End of Tour with Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg, and that's the true story of David Foster Wallace and his last book tour for the book Infinite Jest. And I love these type of movies. They're definitely not for everybody, but it's a road trip movie with 2 guys, and it seems boring. The trailer makes it seem, oh, okay, but the dialogue is unbelievable. To me, I think that this should be a best screenplay Oscar, but I may not even get nominated. But the dialogue to me is some of the best dialogue I've seen in a movie in years. Great, great film. Jason Segel knocked it out of the park. Highly recommended. That's my number 2. My number 1 is Sicario. Had no expectations going into it. Unbelievable. Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, I know he's been nominated 12 times. I thought some of the shots were breathtaking. I don't think he's going to get the Oscar this year, and I'll get to that in a second. But Sicario, basically a kind of fresh take on, it's kind of hard to explain, but it involves Mexican cartels bringing drugs into the United States and the relationship between the Mexican cartels and different governmental agencies within the U.S. and how they solve these problems. It was very creative, had me thinking the whole time. Highly, highly recommend it. That's my number 1. So that's my top 5 of 2015 so far. Now let's get into my top 5 most anticipated.